Hey, welcome to Movement Church. My name is Josh Tandy, and we are so glad that you made this part of your Sunday morning or whenever you're watching this, maybe after the fact. Hey, I just want you to do something right now for us. I introduced myself. Would you introduce yourself? Right there in the comments section, just kind of let us know that you're there. Maybe, I know we got some people who are a little chatty in the comments, and that is great. And so you've already been introducing yourself. But if you haven't yet, go ahead and introduce yourself and let us know what you had for breakfast this morning, or maybe what you're how you're set up. Do you have coffee? Are you watching on your phone? Are you watching on your computer, or whatever it might be? So let us know that in the comments section. Hey, so here at Movement Church, we exist to help people find and follow Jesus. And we are so excited that even in this time, we are still able to do that. We've been able to do that through a number of different ways. And one of the big ones has been this, that we're doing this online only expression of Sunday morning. And we're so glad that you made this part of your time in your day. Now, moving forward, we're going to keep doing this. We're looking at June 21st as our first in-person gathering, and it's going to look different than it did back in early March. We're going to be doing some different things. Namely, we're not going to have movement kids, and we're going to be kind of aware and try to be as wise as possible. So we recognize that one of the things that we're going to have to do is limit capacity. So we want to have seats, essentially. We want to have space open for people who are coming for the very first time, that want to come in person. We want to have space for those that are really, really yearning and desiring that in-person worship gathering. And so we're going to keep doing these online experiences. And we encourage you, maybe you want to get together with some people and watch this together on a Sunday morning to have kind of a watch party. But we are going to be continuing moving forward. So if you have gotten to the place where you're really enjoying this, or maybe you live far away from Newport, this is a great way for you to engage with us. We're so glad that you're here with us. And before we jump in, I just wanted to kind of throw this up again, that if you are needing to reach out, if you're needing to talk to somebody, if you want prayer, if you have questions about the church, about faith, if you're looking for kind of the next step in all of this, kind of where you go, man, we'd love to talk to you. You can send us a text. You can call and we'll go to voicemail, but we'll be glad to follow up with you in that and kind of explain what's going on and where we're at. You can also fill out a Connect card. That Connect card link we'll put in the comments right now, but we would love for you to reach out. We'd love for you to reach out and just kind of make yourself known. It was really cool to see some of you doing that these past few weeks. So go ahead and do that right now. But I'm so thankful that you would make this part of your day. Welcome to Movement Church.
You called us out from the depths into your freedom. Our chains are gone. No weapon formed shall prevail. Your word is stronger. We overcome. Your glory resounds through the age. All saints declaring your great renown. Your kingdom forever will stand. We won't be shaken. We will not fear. Our God, a mighty warrior, you're a consuming fire. In victory you reign. We triumph in your name. Jesus, the great commander, you conquered death forever. In victory you reign. We triumph in your name. Your glory resounds through the age. All saints declaring your great renown. Your kingdom forever will stand. We won't be be shaken, we will not fear. Our God, a mighty warrior, you're a consuming fire. In victory you reign, we triumph in your name. Jesus, the great commander, you conquered death forever. In victory you reign, we triumph in your name. And we declare your name is power. Exalted one, your name is higher. You stand alone, a strong defender. Above you there's no other, above you there's no other. And we declare your name is power. Exalted one, your name is higher. You stand alone, a strong defender. Above you there's no other, above you there's no other. Our God, a mighty warrior, you're a consuming fire. In victory you reign, we triumph in your name. Jesus, the great commander, you conquered death forever. In victory you reign, we triumph in your name.
So I don't know if this is true at your house, but at my house, there is tape on basically all of the remote controls for the TV. Yeah, there's tape because when I sit there and I watch TV, I'm always fidgeting with it, or I'm sliding or opening up the case that covers up the battery, and I'm kind of flipping it around in my hand, and I feel like I just gotta have to hold on to something. Maybe you're like that. Maybe you got that pen that you click and you think back to maybe high school, and there was somebody who did that, and you want to just take it. There's that commercial. I think it's a wrestling commercial, and they break that marker or that pen from clicking. Maybe for you, it's something to drink. You got coffee. Maybe you got coffee right now there at your home, and it's just kind of something nice to have. When we meet in person, it's kind of nice to have coffee. It just kind of makes us feel a little bit more comfortable, right? Or maybe it's you're kind of tied to your phone, right? And you're tied to your phone because you're on it, but even when you're not on it, you're kind of holding it. And maybe you've been in that spot where you're looking for your phone and your phone's in your hands. Or maybe you're looking for your phone using the flashlight on your phone to see if it fell behind somewhere, even though it's in your hands the whole time. Because I think there's something about we just kind of have to hold on to something. We're always looking to hold on to something. Remember fidget spinners? Remember how big those things were for, I don't know, a month? We just want to hold on to something. Well, today we're in this series called How to Get Through What You're Going Through. We're going to talk about that urge, that need that we have to hold on to things, okay? But before we do that, I want to review things. I want to review kind of what we talked about last week. We talked about how there's 3 different stages of faith. And the first is that confident faith stage. Now, this is the stage of faith that usually happens when we're new to faith in general, or new in terms of a new stage. It just feels effortless. You know, it feels like our prayers are answered. It's easy to read scripture. It's easy to pray. You know, it's kind of one of those places where we just have confidence. It is just rolling with us, right? Like it is just good. Then we go from there into this challenged faith. This is when things happen that are really hard, when doubts come up, when it's a real struggle to even take on spiritual disciplines, right? Like you say that, okay, I know I need to be reading my Bible, or I need to fire up the app, but I have no motivation to do that. And those questions and those doubts and those challenges, it just kind of puts this big damper on things. Maybe you're like me, you've got questions. You're like me, and you find yourself often in that challenged faith place where you still have faith, but you're always trying to work out, what does this look like? How am I supposed to interact with things? You watch the news, particularly these last few weeks, and say, how am I supposed to respond to these big, big issues? And when we're in the challenged faith spot, it's so easy for us at times to just throw up our hands. We almost long for that confident faith stage. We long for that confident faith stage where things were kind of new, were fresh, were unstoppable. And in that challenged faith stage, that phase, we have all these different options. And the hope is that we're going to move forward, right? Because when we go from challenged faith to confident faith, usually that means we haven't dealt with the questions or challenges that presented themselves here. We just kind of revert back, right? We as adults kind of opt for the fairy tale version, or we opt for the children's Bible version. Now, I have kids and I've read children's Bibles to them. They are fantastic. They are awesome. They are a great way to introduce faith. But Paul says that there's a time when you've got to go from milk to food. You've got to grow up. You've got to mature. And when we experience challenges, we experience doubts and questions, the tendency, the temptation, because we're trying to hold on to things, is just to go back to that confident faith. But there's a third phase that I think we all should be pushing ourselves to. We should all be striving after. We should all be surrendering to God to get to that point. It's a place that we just call living faith. Now, living faith isn't one that has all the answers. It doesn't answer everything that came up in that challenged phase, but it's real. It is grounded. It is tested. It is true. You know, I read a biblical scholar years ago, and he was talking about the parables of Jesus. Jesus would tell these stories, right? He would tell these stories about farmers and people going to a city, and he'd talk about vineyards, and he'd talk about fishing. He'd tell all these stories, these very real stories. And the commentator, the scholar, was saying that you could argue about whether or not these stories actually happened, right? We could argue about, did this actually happen the way that Jesus says it does? But then we would be missing the point that they are true even if they didn't happen, right? They are true in that they communicate something bigger, deeper, more powerful, more profound than just actual events. Right? And that's what living faith gets to, is that it is a true place, not just in the recitation of facts, but in the sense that this is something that I can live with, I can move for, I can thrive, I can experience that full life. It's a part of me. It's not just one silo. It's not just one thing there. But I feel so often like I've got one foot in that living faith camp and one foot in that challenged faith camp. And honestly, these last 10, 11, 12 weeks, there's been a lot of challenge. So how do we get through this? How do we not just get through this? How do we not just survive this? How do we thrive in this situation? How do we come out of this closer to Jesus? How do we come out of this living more into our mission of helping people find and follow Jesus? How do we live into that idea that we want to become a church that would be missed if we were gone, right? And we haven't gone anywhere. The church is not closed. We are still moving forward. And thank you for being a part of that. But how do we live in that living faith? How do we embrace that and go forward? So we're going to go back to this Exodus story, the Exodus chapter 32, and you can flip there or fire up the app if you want to, so you can follow along with us. But in Exodus chapter 32, I think that we can see the I keep saying that. The Egyptians were the slave holders. The Hebrews, the Israelites, were the people of God that were being freed, right? They were the slaves. So the Israelites, the Hebrews, the people of God, they were going out. They were led out by Moses. They had been freed. They had experienced all these incredible things. And in the midst of this, there was probably a lot of confident faith. We saw the Red Sea split. We were given this freedom. We saw the enemies of God, Egypt's armies, Pharaoh's armies be destroyed when the Red Sea collapsed onto them. Maybe it goes even further when they see, this is how God has provided for us, but there's this point, we talked about this last week, where God takes them on a detour. He doesn't take the direct route. He takes them into the desert. He doesn't take the shorter path. So I think the people of God begin to wrestle with doubt. They begin to wrestle with distrust, right? Because that's the difference between crying out and complaining. It's trust. And so now they're having this moment where they are struggling with trust. Now, little do they realize that things were about to go from bad to worse. Now, Moses, their leader, right? Moses, the one who had led them out. Moses, the one who had split the Red Sea with his staff as God worked through him. Moses goes away. It says they're in this valley, and up this valley there's this huge mountain, the mountain of God, Mount Sinai. And it says that God calls Moses up there, and he spends 40 days and 40 nights there. 40 days and 40 nights, Moses is gone. He's on the mountain, there in the valley. He's hearing from God. They're hearing nothing. He comes back with the 10 Commandments, and they have nothing. I think the people in this moment, they were just looking for something to hold on to. They'd had this incredible experience. The trauma of slavery, the euphoria of freedom, the amazement of God's glory of splitting the Red Sea, of being led by a pillar of fire at night and a cloud during the day, of seeing all this, and then Moses disappears. 40 days and 40 nights. And I think the people begin to enter into that challenged faith stage. And when they're there, they are looking for something to hold on to. We're going to go to Exodus chapter 32 right now. So Exodus chapter 32, starting in verse 1. It says, when the people saw that Moses was so long in coming down from the mountain, they gathered around Aaron. Now remember, Aaron is Moses' brother. Aaron is kind of the COO of this whole operation. He makes things happen. He is sometimes, with Pharaoh, he was kind of the mouthpiece to Pharaoh from God through Moses, and the mouthpiece to the people. So he's the one communicating. He's the one making things happen. They go and gather around Aaron and said, come, make us gods who will go before us. As for this fellow Moses, I don't know who this guy is. I don't know about him, but who brought us up out of Egypt, we don't know what has happened to him. Sometimes you just want to hold on to something. You need something tangible, right? You need something tangible. You need to have that hold of that hope. So Aaron asked the people. He gathers their gold, earrings, rings, maybe bowls or some sort of decorative pieces, valuables. He gathers all the pieces of gold. And he creates this huge fire, and he melts down the gold. He builds this cast, and he pours the gold into the cast, and out comes a golden calf. Now, look what happens in verse 4. Aaron declares, these are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt. So here's the golden calf. Here are your gods. This is bad. But look what happens next. Look at verse 5. Aaron says, tomorrow there will be a festival to the Lord. Not to the gods, not to the golden calf, but to the Lord. That's the God of the Bible. That's not a generic term. That's specific. I think what's happening here is Aaron is trying to give the people something to hold on to. He's trying to give them something. See, the golden calf is an interesting image. It was a relatively common thing that peoples would use, an image to kind of create in their whole deity scheme, the ways in which they would worship idols and parts of nature. They would assign different things to different aspects of life. The calf would come up over and over again, but it usually wasn't a god in and of itself. The calf, particularly in Egyptian myth, the calf was almost like a throne. It was where the god would sit. So I think what Aaron is doing here is trying to reinforce what is right. He's trying to give them something to hold on to. He says, you want a God, you want something you can see. I'm going to help you remain faithful to the Lord by giving you the gods of Egypt, and this is just going to be a glorified chair. Aaron holds on to that golden calf while still proclaiming his faith in God. Now maybe Aaron's a lot more like us than we realize. See, I think by and large, when we are in that challenged faith and we kind of take it an unhealthy way, or we step away from following Jesus, usually there's not this big proclamation, this big moment, this grand announcement where we say, I'm done. Our unfaithfulness, our idolatry, which is a fancy, powerful word that says we are taking something that only God can do, a place that is reserved only for God, and putting something else there, and it's usually something good. But we take that good thing and we overextend it to make it into something that is great, that can save us, that can give us meaning and hope and adoption into this perfect family of God. See, Aaron's a lot like us because we don't just dismiss God. We don't tell God to go away in our challenged faith and say, we've got this. We take something else and we add it. We pick over here and we add it. What we're doing is we're looking for something to add on to God because we are looking for something to hold on to. I think the people of God were tired of the silence. They were tired of living in the unknown. What is Moses doing up there? When's he coming back? They're tired of being in that valley moment. Now, right now, maybe for you, you know what that's like. There's all these different streaming services, right? And it seems like a new one comes out every week. I heard an advertisement for one of the new ones, and essentially the pitch was, in this trying time, you need the best streaming service to make sure that you get the best quality content. They're advertising, we are better at numbing. We are better at entertaining. We are better than the other guys of delivering to you the escape. I think there's a place for entertainment. There's a place for joy, and there's a place for distraction. But I think we've overextended that. Or maybe for you, it's alcohol. You're home. You're by yourself. And all of a sudden you find I'm doing this every night. I'm having a glass. I'm having two. I'm having three. I'm having four. And it becomes something we're relying on. Or maybe it's your job. Maybe you're fortunate and you haven't had your job be disruptive, and you're kind of diving into it. Most of us aren't so bold to say, forget you, God. Not most of us say, God, get out of here. Most of us, we just want something to hold on to. We want something that feels concrete. We want something that will help us get through what we're going through. I know for me, these last 10, 11 weeks, there's been a lot of grief. There's been loss. There's been leadership challenges, right? How do we lead? How do I lead as a pastor? What do we do as a church in this time? How do we do church in this time? In the midst of my grief, I think that part of me would just throw myself into the work, because if I'm busy, I don't have to think. I don't have to deal with my emotions. I think in my leadership, I think when I think about all the different scenarios and the what ifs and what if we did this and how can we do this and is this right, is this wrong, what are we supposed to do here? I think I look for ways to just drown that out, to escape. So yeah, streaming services. Yeah, messing around on my phone. Yeah, all those things. So what is it for you? In this time, I'd love for you to put this in the chat window. Or maybe it's something that's so hard you need to text us. You need to reach out to us and kind of share what's going on and ask for some prayer. But what's that thing for you? Right now in the chat window, just go ahead and comment. Go ahead and comment right now. What is the thing that you're going through? Where in your life are you being challenged? Where in your life are you being challenged? Where in your life is this really, really difficult? Because some of us are going through a relational desert right now, right? We're isolated, we're alone, we feel like we've been cut off. Maybe for us it's relationships in terms of we want to be married, but we're not. We're single and we don't want to be single. Or maybe you're married and you wish you were single some days. You're married, but there's no love, there's no joy, there's nothing. And you feel like you're just stuck. You've never felt more lonely or alone. Maybe for you, the desert has to do with your finances. There are still bills to pay, and a job has been lost, or job's been cut, and income's been cut, and you're dodging creditors. Or you're lying to yourself, you're lying to your wife about the situation. Maybe for you, the desert has to do with disappointment. I think about all the seniors that have graduated into this, right? I think about those graduating high school and college that were looking to enter the workforce or looking to pursue their dreams, and they're just kind of waiting. They're just trying to figure this out. Whether it's the pandemic, whether it's racism and unrest and strife and pain, whatever it is, I think there's something that can fill us with fear, with anxiety, with apathy, with frustration, with anger. So whatever it is you're going through, I believe this, that God is still there. I believe that God is still working. And I think that if you're going to hear nothing else from me this morning or whenever you're watching this, right, that you would hear what I'm about to say. That whatever you're going through, man, I'm sorry. It is hard. It is painful. There's all sorts of uncertainty, right? I don't know what the right answer is, but I'm sorry. But I know this, and this is what I think you need to hear. God is still with you. You're not alone. Whatever it is, God's present. There is still hope. There's still hope in this. The story is not over because the story doesn't even end with death. There is still hope. There is still the ability to step into that living faith that carries and sustains. But first, I think we've got to do some work. Not to get God more present in our lives, not to get us loved by God more, or whatever BS gets piled onto this. But if we are going to take a step in following Jesus, we got to follow Jesus. We got to get rid of some of the extra things that we've just been trying to hold on to. We got to get rid of that stuff. So that's the first question. What do I need to let go of? What are the things that I need to let go of? Maybe for you it's a relationship. You got to break up with them. You got to create some distance. You got to kind of say, this isn't healthy. I got to step away. Maybe it has to do with your work, and there's someone there, and the relationship is just toxic. And maybe you've held on to it because of hope that it would fulfill you, or this would get better, or whatever it is. Maybe it's time just to remove it. Maybe for you it's sex. Maybe for you it's that you're pursuing sex. You're just pursuing a feeling. And maybe you're doing that through pornography. And it's that escape, and it's that thing that, you know, it's not hurting anyone, right? Maybe that's something you need to let go of. Maybe for you it's the drinking, it's the alcohol, it's the drug use, it's the things that you just kind of do to escape, to numb yourself. Maybe for you, you're like me, your drug of choice is food, right? It's food. I get stressed, I eat, and it's a bad thing because I get stressed quite a bit. And we laugh about it, but it's wrong. Maybe for you it's spending money that you don't have. Or because you have money, you've just been able to kind of get away with it, but you're not living a generous life, and so you're missing out. You're missing out on fullness. Or maybe for you, it's because the debt just kind of continues to build. So with money, or maybe it's work, and people applaud your success, and people pat you on the back, but you just keep working harder. You just keep investing more and more, and you're not happy. You're not fulfilled. You don't have purpose. You don't have meaning. So what are you doing? Is that really what's most important? Or maybe for you, and I think this is the big one. I think this is the big thing that we got to let go of. It's your identity. Your identity. Because you have an identity that's outside of who God says you are. Your identity is wrapped up in who you vote for, what news channel you watch. Your identity is wrapped up in your opinions on whatever. Your identity is wrapped up in who you love, how you feel. Things that are there, things that are real, that's not ultimately who you are. Your identity is wrapped up in nationality or your group or your people. Your identity is wrapped up in your cause. And usually they're pretty good causes. Your identity is wrapped up in the idea that you're better. You think you're better than other people. Or your identity is wrapped up in this idea that you think you're trash, that you're worthless. Because when it comes to identity, this is who God says you are. God says you are loved, you're valued, you have meaning, you have purpose. God says you are a child of Him. You are a child of King. You are a son or a daughter of the King, of the Creator God. God says that you are someone who's worth loving. Not because of stuff you've done, but just because you are. God says you are loved. God says you're in the family of God. That's our true identity. So we have to figure out what are the things that we have to let go of. And then secondly, the second suggestion is, what do you need to hold on to? What are the things that you do need in your life? I think about Psalm 23, where it says, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you are with me. We need to hold on to the fact that God is with us. In fact, we need to hold on to God's presence. We need to hold on to that through spending time with God, by investing in that relationship, by serving the people that He loves, which, by the way, is everyone. We need to be about the things that God is about, because God is present in that. We need to be about the things in which we can recognize God is present in everything. We need to hold on to God's presence. I know for me, and this is weird for me, and I shared this on a social media post, but there's a song called Rescue Story. I've been holding on to that. Zach Williams is the artist. Go listen to that. That's been huge for me. I'm holding on to that because when I hear that song, I hear gospel. I sense, I feel, I know, I am reminded of God's presence. So first, you've got to hold on to that. And secondly, you've got to hold on to God's people, which is tough right now, right? It's been fun because our groups, all of our groups, I think, are now meeting in person, or at least that's an option available to people. And the other night we had our group together. We sat around the fire and we talked, and it was just so good to be together. I think our kids were freaking out just because other kids were there and they didn't know how to act and all that. And so it's not like we got stuff done in terms of the study or the conversation, but it was something of a time where we could just hold on to each other. So I'd encourage you, we all need something to hold on to. So we've got to hold on to God's presence. We've got to hold on to God's people. And you do both of those by reaching out. You do both of those by reaching out. The psalmist says this in Psalm chapter 63. My soul clings to you. Your right hand upholds me securely. And then Corrie ten Boom says it even better. When a train goes through a tunnel and it gets dark, You don't throw away the ticket and jump off. You sit still, and you trust the engineer. So here's the question. Last week we talked about how we get through this by first crying out. By crying out to God. Today what we're saying, right now what we're saying, is that we have surrender. We got to let go of some things. And when we do, you start to experience that living faith. Right now, there at your home, or wherever you're watching this, I want to lead you in prayer. And I encourage you to join me in that. Close your eyes, set things down. Let's pray together. Father, we need help surrendering. Show us the things that we need to let go of, the things that we have placed value in, the things that we have used to numb ourselves, to forget, to step away, to whatever. God, show us how to let go of our secondary identities that we have taken and put in that primary place. That those secondary identities are often good. They often speak to so much of how you've created us, but let us first and foremost see you. See you and what you say about our identity. And that as we surrender, as we lay down everything, show us how to hold on to your presence. And show us how to hold on to your people. Because you have work for us. You have purpose for us. You have life for us. And show us how to take a step into that. Thank you, Father. Amen.
As an anchor for my soul, through every storm, I will hold to you with endless love. All my fear is swept away. There is hope in the promise of the cross. You gave everything to save the world you love. And this hope is an anchor for my soul. Our God will stand unshakable. This hope is an anchor for my soul. Our God will stand unshakable. There is hope in the promise of the cross.
So here in a moment, I want to lead you through communion. And we celebrate communion at Movement Church every week, every time we gather. And we say that anybody who follows Jesus can partake. And so maybe you've never met me in person. Maybe you've never been in this room for a worship gathering. Man, we invite you to come to the table and to celebrate communion right where you're at. So go get some crackers, go get some bread, go get some water, get some juice, whatever. Because here in a moment we're going to do that. But before I do, I wanted to just put this up one more time. And we'd love to get to know you. We'd love to pray with you and for you. We'd love to tell you about Jesus. We'd love to tell you about Jesus because we are idiots. I'm an idiot. But we're all trying to follow Jesus. I'd love to talk to you about that, tell you about that, talk about what the next steps might be. Next steps like baptism and serving and getting involved here and giving of yourself and your time and all those incredible things and how we pursue Jesus with spiritual disciplines like reading scripture and prayer. But most of all, I'd like to tell you about Jesus because that's what really matters. All right, you got your communion elements. You got your stuff. You're ready. So I love this idea that we can hold on to God's presence in communion. And our Catholic brothers and sisters and brothers and sisters from other traditions, historical traditions of faith, have talked about that God is residing in that Jesus is residing in that. And it's one of those kind of like, I think, it's one of those kind of like parables of Jesus. It doesn't matter if it's actually true, it's true, right? It doesn't matter if it actually happened, it's true. Because here in a moment, what I want you to do is I want you to take that bread, that cracker, whatever, and I want you to eat it. And maybe if you're with someone else, maybe you could serve someone there that's with you. And when you do that, tell them, this is the body of Jesus broken for you. We get to hold on to God's presence. Go ahead and do that right now. We also get to hold on to God's people in this. Go ahead and get your cup ready, your juice, your water, whatever. And it says that when Jesus shared this, and as Christians for some 2,000 years, billions of Christians have done this. They have shared in this. They said, this is the blood of Jesus. This is the blood of Christ. And yeah, it's really hard. And go ahead right now and take that juice, that water, that blood of Christ. Yeah, it's really hard right now to figure out how are we holding on to one another, holding on to God's people. How are we coming to the table together? We're doing it right now. You could be by yourself physically in your home, but you are not alone. You are not alone. So as you've taken communion, you're holding on to God's presence. And yeah, even though it may feel like you're alone, you're not. Because you're also holding on to God's people. At Movement, at churches, everywhere, anywhere, at any time. This binds us together. We hold on to God's presence and we hold on to one another. Man, thanks so much for being a part of this. I recognize that for some of you, this is great. Like, this is just a great way to connect, and you don't live close, or it's inconvenient on Sunday mornings because of work or whatever. But I know for a lot of you, this is really hard. And come June 21, we're going to get at least some of us back together. We're still going to be doing online stuff here like this. It's going to look different. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be things that we're going to be changing on the fly, and we'll go week to week in terms of, okay, that didn't work, we got to change this, but we got a plan. We're working on it, and we're going to be set up for you. And so I recognize that this, jumping in online here, this is tough. This is hard. I just want to say thank you. And man, we got one more week of just online. And I encourage you to keep engaging, keep doing this, because here's the bottom line. I'll leave you with this. We exist not to hold Sunday morning church. We exist not to gather at the corner of 8th and Monroe in this beautiful building. We exist not so that we can just talk amongst ourselves about Jesus. We exist to help people find and follow Jesus. Go and do just that. We'll see you next week. Bye.